Hey guys, it's Betty from BakerBettie.com. If you aren't familiar with me, I am a trained chef and baking instructor, and my goal is to help you become a better baker through teaching classic baking techniques and approachable baking science. Now today is the start of our sourdough series, and in this series I'm going to walk you through step by step how to make a sourdough starter, how to maintain your starter, and most importantly, how to bake with it. Now there's a ton of amazing information out there about sourdough, but it can all get really confusing and overwhelming. So my goal with this series is to keep it as simple as possible for the home baker. Now the playlist for this series is meant to be watched sequentially so you can get a good foundational understanding of how sourdough works. Now before we get started actually making our sourdough starter, let's talk about yeast. So yeast is a fungus and it is all around us. It is floating through the air, it is living in our bodies, and it's in a lot of food that we eat. Now, yeast bread is traditionally made in two different forms. It can be made with commercially produced yeast, or it can be made with a sourdough starter. Now, commercially produced yeast is typically sold dried. You might be familiar with it being sold in packets like this. And it is cultivated in a lab specifically for its ability to work very quickly to leaven our bread. Now, a sourdough starter is a natural culture of yeast and bacteria that is used to leaven your bread. There are many different methods of creating a sourdough starter, but they all generally consist of combining flour and water and letting that ferment. There are natural yeast and bacteria living in flour as well as in the air, and when these are combined with water, they're going to start fermenting. Now, as you feed your starter over and over again, it's going to get stronger as it collects more yeast and bacteria, and it will get strong enough that it can start leavening bread. Now, this is my sourdough starter. Her name is Millie, and you might be able to see that there's a few bubbles forming in her, and that's because I just fed her a little bit ago, and she's starting to feed and creating CO2 gases and alcohols. Now we're going to get into all of the intricate details of how you can start your own starter from scratch in an upcoming video, so be thinking about what you want to name yours. Now you might be wondering, what is the benefit in creating your own sourdough starter if it's so easy to bake bread with a package of yeast? And there are a few different reasons, but the main reason is flavor. So bread made with commercial yeast is going to contain one strain of yeast, and while this yeast works very quickly and efficiently to leaven your bread, it is going to create less flavor. Bread made from a natural sourdough culture is going to contain many different strains of yeast and bacteria, and it's also going to ferment over a longer period of time, and these things just create a much more flavorful bread. Additionally, many people prefer bread made with sourdough starter over commercially produced bread because they find it easier to digest. And the last and most important reason is that making sourdough is just so dang fun. There is something really magical about just mixing water and flour together and then using it to make something like this. Please leave me any questions you have down in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer them. And in an upcoming video, I will be reviewing all of the equipment that you need to make your own sourdough. And then we're going to dive right into making our own sourdough starters from scratch. I hope you liked today's video. If you did, please give it a like and make sure you subscribe and hit that subscription bell. I'll see you guys later.